I fell into this trap for 7 years. Now I understand. My mind was my own enemy. You know what hurts more than failure? It's living with just a fraction of your potential. It's looking in the mirror every morning and thinking, I could have done more. That's what eats away at your soul. My name is Marcus Reed. I'm 38 years old, and today I'm going to make an embarrassing confession. A confession that might be your story too, because while I was living through this, I noticed dozens of people around me stuck in the same loop. We all lived different lives, but we were prisoners in the same mental jail. 7 years. For 7 full years, there was an invisible wall between me and my talents, between me and my capacity, between me and my dreams. And the scariest part, I built that wall myself, brick by brick, thought by thought, worry by worry. Personal scene, September 2016. A cold Seattle morning. I walked into the office at 7:30, like always, got my coffee, sat at my desk, started checking emails. Then I saw it, an invitation from the CEO's assistant. Important announcement about organizational changes. 10 a.m. conference room. My heart started racing. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. 3 years. Senior product manager position. For 6 months, I'd been doing everything right. I'd perfected every project presentation. I'd reviewed every report 3 times. I'd said the right things in every meeting. Or so I thought. At 10 a.m., I walked into the conference room. CEO Sarah Henderson stood at the podium. Mark, the HR director, stood beside her. About 20 employees were there, all of us waiting, all of us curious. Good morning, everyone, Sarah said with a smile. Today I'm making an exciting announcement. Our company is growing, and with this growth, we're strengthening our leadership team. I held my breath. For our senior product manager position, after a long search process, she paused. It felt like slow motion. We're thrilled to announce Jake Morrison for this role. The world stopped. Jake Morrison, 29 years old. He'd joined the company the same year as me, but he was 9 years younger. Yes, he was talented, but I was more experienced. I'd completed more projects. I'd done more. But there he was, standing up, smiling, accepting the applause. And me? I sat there, with a fake smile on my face, clapping. First crisis point. I don't remember how I spent the rest of that day. I worked mechanically. I talked to people, but didn't hear what they said. When I left the office at 5:30, Seattle's rainy streets mirrored my mood. When I got home, Lisa was in the kitchen, my wife. She saw something on my face immediately. What happened, Marcus? She said with concern. I didn't get the promotion, I said in a flat voice. Jake got it. Lisa came over, held my hand. I'm sorry, honey, but maybe this means a better opportunity for you. Maybe. Maybe what? I raised my voice without meaning to. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe working 12 hours a day means nothing. Maybe perfecting every detail doesn't matter. Lisa looked at me silently. I saw something in her eyes for the first time. Not pity, exhaustion. Marcus, she said slowly, maybe the problem isn't how hard you work. Maybe the problem is you never actually pull the trigger. What do you mean? I've been watching you for 3 years. You overthink every opportunity until it disappears. Remember that startup offer last year? You thought about it for 2 months. The opportunity vanished. Remember that side project? You delayed it for 6 months because it wasn't ready yet. Marcus, you make perfect plans, but you never what? Never jump into the fire. Jake, jump. You're still standing on the edge, thinking, I couldn't sleep that night. Lisa's words kept spinning in my head, and if I'm being honest, that's when I realized something for the first time. Maybe the problem wasn't the outside world. Maybe the problem was me, or more specifically, this hidden mechanism in my mind that worked against me. 7-year awareness moment. The next day was Saturday. I got my coffee, walked to Seattle's famous Pike Place market. Sometimes being alone in a crowd was the best way to think. I sat on a bench, and I rewound the last 7 years of my life. Since college, I'd always felt like I was preparing, always thinking, I'm not ready yet, always feeling like I need to work a bit more. Let me take you through those 7 years, each one a missed opportunity, each one a brick in my mental prison. 2009, the first surrender. I was 25, fresh out of college, working at a decent tech company in San Francisco. I had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to get my MBA, go to Stanford, or maybe Harvard, build something meaningful. I took the GMAT, scored 680. Not perfect, but good enough for most programs. But that voice started. 680? That's average. Marcus, you're not average. You need at least 700. 720 would be better. Then you'd really stand out. So I delayed my applications. Just one more year, I told myself. I'll study harder. Get that perfect score. I studied every evening after work. Every weekend. I took the test again 6 months later. 690, 10 points higher. But that voice said, still not 700. I took it a third time. 695. By then, the application deadlines had passed. That's okay, I told myself. Next year will be better anyway. But next year, I had a different excuse. The economy is unstable. Maybe I should wait. Then another excuse. I should save more money first. 7 years later, I never applied. That 680 score, the one that was not good enough, it was actually in the 75th percentile. It would have gotten me into great schools, but I never tried, because perfect was the enemy of good enough. 2012, the startup that never was. I was 28, still at the same company, still waiting for the perfect moment to make my move. Then I met David at a tech meetup in San Francisco. We clicked immediately. Both of us frustrated with corporate life, both of us dreaming of building something of our own. Over beers one night, I shared an idea I'd been developing, a SaaS platform for small businesses, customer relationship management combined with automated marketing, simple, affordable, powerful. David's eyes lit up. Marcus, this is brilliant. We should build this. My heart raced. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. But then that voice started. Wait, are you sure this is viable? Have you done enough market research? What if it fails? What if you run out of money? What if? Let me do more research first, I told David. I want to make sure we have a solid plan. Sure, David said, but don't overthink it. Let's aim to launch something basic in 3 months. 3 months became 6 months. My research turned into analysis paralysis. I created spreadsheets, market reports, competitor analyses, financial projections. Everything was almost ready, but never quite ready. Meanwhile, David's enthusiasm started fading. Marcus, we need to move. We're losing momentum. Just a bit more time. I kept saying, I want everything to be perfect before we commit. Then one day, David called me. Marcus, I can't wait anymore. I'm sorry, I'm joining another startup. But hey, you should still build your idea, I said. Of course, no problem, I understand. But inside, I was devastated. 6 months later, I saw a TechCrunch article. New startup customer flow raises $2 million in seed funding. I clicked the link. My stomach dropped. It was my idea, almost exactly, built by a team of 3 guys who probably spent less time planning and more time executing. They weren't better than me. They weren't smarter than me. They just had one thing I didn't have: the courage to act before everything was perfect. 2014. The safe choice. I was 30. Still grinding at the same company. Still dreaming of something more. Then 2 opportunities came at once. Opportunity 1. A promotion at my current company. Senior product manager. Good salary. Stable. Safe. Opportunity 2. A startup in stealth mode. Building something in artificial intelligence. They wanted me as their first product lead. Equity stake. Higher risk. Higher potential reward. The startup founder called me. Marcus, we want you. You'd be shaping the product from day one. This could be huge. I was excited, terrified, thrilled, paralyzed. I made a pros and cons list. Actually, I made 15 pros and cons lists. Current job pros: stable income, health insurance, known environment, low risk, startup pros, equity, ownership, potential for massive growth. Exciting challenge. I showed the lists to everyone. My parents, my friends, my girlfriend Lisa. Everyone had different advice. My parents said, stay safe. You have a good job. My friends said, take the risk. You're young. Lisa said, what does your gut say? My gut said, go for the startup. But my mind said, what if it fails? What if you end up broke and jobless? What if everyone was right about playing it safe? I scheduled calls with both companies, tried to negotiate, tried to buy time, tried to make the decision easier. In the end, fear won. I took the promotion at my current company. The startup, they hired someone else. 6 months later, they got acquired by Google for $40 million. That's someone else. The person who took the role I turned down, he became a millionaire overnight. And me? I got a 10% raise and a slightly better title. 2016. The pattern becomes clear. Fast forward to now, I'm 38. I've been at the same company for 9 years. I've had 4 different titles, but I've never made that jump, never taken that real risk. And now, sitting on this bench at Pike Place Market, I finally saw the pattern. Every time an opportunity came, I hesitated. Every time a door opened, I asked for more time to think. Every time success was within reach, I found a reason to wait. The problem wasn't the opportunities. The problem was me, or more specifically, the voice in my head. The voice that said, not yet, not ready, not good enough. That voice had cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, career opportunities, personal growth, 7 years of my life. And the scariest part, I'd believed that voice was protecting me, keeping me safe, helping me make smart decisions. But it wasn't protecting me, it was imprisoning me. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, started writing. The cost of 7 years, MBA never pursued. Potential career trajectory lost. Startup never built. $2 million opportunity missed. High risk, high reward job never taken. $40 million acquisition missed. But those were just the financial costs. The real cost was deeper. 7 years of living small. 7 years of playing it safe. 7 years of watching others take risks and win while I stayed on the sidelines. 7 years of going to bed thinking I could have done more. That was the real cost. And it was unbearable. My phone rang. My dad was calling. Marcus, how are you, son? My dad was 67, a retired engineer. He'd lived in a small Midwest town his whole life, worked at the same company for 40 years, never took risks. I'm fine, Dad, I said automatically. Your mom told me about the promotion. I'm sorry, son. Thanks, Dad. There was a brief silence. Then my dad said something. Marcus, can I tell you something? Since I retired, I've been thinking a lot. You know what I regret most in my life? Not the things I couldn't do, the things I was afraid to do. This was unexpected. My dad never talked this openly. What do you mean, Dad? In 1985, my boss wanted to transfer me to the European office. We were going to start a new division. I talked to your mom. She was excited, but I said too risky. I said, we have a safe job here. I turned down that opportunity, Marcus. And you know what happened? The guy who took that position became the company's vice president 5 years later. I heard him take a deep breath. Son, you're smart. You're talented. But I've known you for 38 years. And I've noticed something. You think like me. You always ask, what could go wrong? But have you ever asked, what could be amazing? After I hung up, I sat there for a long time. The Pike Place Market crowd swirled around me, but I didn't see any of them. My dad's words, Lisa's words, Jake's rise, they all pointed to the same truth. The problem wasn't the world. The problem was my mind, and more specifically, the 7 years I'd spent without realizing how my mind was sabotaging me. First discovery. That weekend, I did something. I faced myself honestly. I bought a notebook, wrote on it in big letters, how my mind sabotages me. Then I started writing for hours, and what emerged shocked me. Pattern number 1. Analysis. Paralysis. I counted how many times I'd said I need to research a bit more in the last 7 years. Guess how many? 247 times. 247 times. I saw an opportunity and said, I'm not ready yet. 247 times an idea came to me, and I said, I need more data. 247 times. I chose thinking over action, and what happened? How many of those 247 opportunities came true? 0. Because while I was thinking, others were acting, like Jake Morrison. Jake was 80% ready, but 100% confident in every presentation. I was 100% ready, but 50% confident. Guess who won? Pattern number 2, the inner critic. There was like a second person constantly talking in my mind, and that person was my biggest enemy. Let me tell you about a typical day with my inner critic. 6:30 p.m. The alarm goes off. Before I even open my eyes, the voice starts. Another day, another chance to prove you're mediocre. I get in the shower. The voice continues. Look at you, 38 years old. Same job, same salary bracket, while your college friends are becoming directors, VPs, entrepreneurs. I get dressed. Look in the mirror. The voice says that shirt doesn't hide the fact that you've given up. Drive to work. The voice narrates my inadequacy. You're going to that same office, that same desk, that same life. Is this really what you thought success would look like? Walk into the building. See Jake in the lobby. The voice says, there he is. Younger than you, more successful than you, everything you're not. Morning meeting. I have an idea. Want to share it? The voice interrupts. Don't. They'll think it's stupid. They'll see right through you. They'll know you're just faking confidence. So I stay quiet. Someone else shares a similar idea. Gets praised. The voice says, see, you had that idea first, but you were too scared, too weak. That's why you'll never succeed. Lunch break. Scroll through LinkedIn. See a post from an old classmate, excited to announce I've been promoted to senior vice president. The voice doesn't even need to say anything. It just laughs. Afternoon. Working on a presentation. I write a sentence. The voice says, that's terrible. Rewrite it. I rewrite it. Still not good enough. I rewrite it again. Are you even trying? By the end of the day, I've rewritten that one sentence 47 times. And I still don't think it's good enough. Drive home. The voice does its closing monologue. Another wasted day. You had chances. You blew them. Tomorrow will be the same. Next year will be the same. This is who you are. A person with potential who never delivers. This was my life. Every single day. For 7 years. The inner critic wasn't just critical. It was relentless, cruel, convincing, and the worst part, I believed it. I thought it was telling me the truth. I thought it was keeping me grounded, preventing me from being arrogant or delusional, but it wasn't grounding me. It was drowning me. Let me share the inner critic's greatest hits, the phrases it used most often. You're not smart enough. Everyone else is better than you. You're going to fail. They'll find out you're a fraud. You don't deserve success. You're too old to change. You're too young to matter. You're too inexperienced. You're too experienced and set in your ways. Notice something. The inner critic contradicts itself. I was simultaneously too young and too old, too inexperienced and too set in my ways, because the inner critic doesn't care about truth. It cares about one thing: keeping you small. Why? Because small is safe, small is predictable, small requires no courage, and courage terrifies the inner critic. I remember one specific moment when I truly saw how destructive this voice was. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'd been working on a major presentation for weeks, a pitch to the executive team for a new product line. The presentation was good, really good. My colleague Sarah reviewed it and said, "Marcus, this is brilliant. You're going to crush it." I should have felt confident. Instead, the inner critic started its work. Sarah's just being nice. She probably thinks it's terrible, but doesn't want to hurt your feelings. I revised the presentation, added more data, more slides, more everything. My other colleague, John, saw the new version. "Marcus, I think you had it better before. This feels overstuffed now." The inner critic jumped in. "See? You ruined it. You always do this. You take something good and wreck it." I spent all night redoing it again. By the morning, I'd gone through 12 versions. I was exhausted, confused. I didn't even know which version was best anymore. The presentation happened. I gave version 8, or maybe it was version 10. I honestly couldn't remember. It went fine. Not amazing. Not terrible. Fine. The CEO said, "Thanks, Marcus. Some interesting ideas here. Let's discuss further next week." But the inner critic heard something else. He hated it. He's too polite to say so. You wasted everyone's time. That night, Lisa found me sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "Marcus, what's wrong?" "I'm not good at this," I said. "Maybe I'm in the wrong career. Maybe I should do something else." The presentation went fine, Lisa said. "The CEO wants to discuss it further." That's positive. He was just being polite. Lisa sat next to me. "Oh my. Marcus, do you hear yourself? You're rewriting reality to fit this narrative that you're not good enough. It's like you're determined to believe the worst about yourself." She was right, but I couldn't see it then. The inner critic's voice was louder than reality itself. Pattern number 3, comparison trap. Every morning when I came to the office, I analyzed everyone around me. But let me tell you the full story of how comparison poisoned my mind. It started innocently. Social media was supposed to connect us, keep us updated on friends' lives, share moments. But for me, it became a daily dose of inadequacy. My morning routine went like this. Wake up, grab phone, open Instagram, scroll, first post. My college roommate Tom. Photo of him at a company retreat in Bali. Caption: "Grateful to lead such an amazing team. Our third quarter exceeded all expectations. Blessed." My reaction: Tom's in Bali. I'm in Seattle rain. Tom's a team leader. I'm still an individual contributor. Tom's blessed. I'm stuck. Second post. My cousin Jennifer. Photo of her new house. Modern. Huge. Beautiful view. Caption. Finally closed on our dream home. Hard work pays off. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag living the dream. My reaction. Jennifer's 32. She owns that house. I'm 38. I rent a 2-bedroom apartment. What am I doing wrong? Third post. Jake. Yes, that Jake. Photo from a conference. On stage. Giving a keynote. Caption. Honored to share our company's vision at Tech Summit. Innovation starts with courage. My reaction. I closed the app, put down the phone, felt sick. This was just the first 5 minutes of my day, and already I'd compared myself to 3 people and lost 3 times. But social media was just one arena. The comparison trap was everywhere. At work, in the elevator, I'd see the company newsletter on the screen. Congratulations to Emma Chen on her promotion to Director of Engineering. Emma started 2 years after me. Now she's a director. I'm still senior. The gap is widening. At family dinners, my aunt would ask, Marcus, how's work? Before I could answer, she'd turn to my cousin. Michael just made partner at his law firm, youngest partner in the firm's history. Everyone would congratulate Michael. I'd smile, nod, feel invisible. At coffee shops, I'd overhear conversations. 2 guys at the next table. Yeah, my startup just closed Series A, 3 million. We're scaling fast. They looked younger than me. They were talking about millions. I was thinking about asking for a $5,000 raise. But the absolute worst comparison trap. LinkedIn. LinkedIn was my digital torture chamber, and I visited it multiple times a day. Let me walk you through a typical LinkedIn session. I'd open the app, see the feed. David Chen has started a new position. Chief Product Officer at Innovation Labs. David, my friend from the MBA program. I never attended. Now he's a C-level executive. Sarah Williams shared an article. Proud to announce our company was named to the Fortune Most Innovative Companies list. Sarah, my former co-worker, she took a risk and joined a startup 3 years ago. Now they're on Fortune lists. I played it safe. Jake Morrison shared, excited to announce, I'll be speaking at the Global Leadership Conference. Jake again. Of course. He got promoted 3 weeks ago. Now he's already a conference speaker. Michael Joe shared, grateful to have sold my 3rd company. Exit was successful. Taking some time off to reflect before the next venture. Michael, my college acquaintance. 3rd company. 3rd exit. I've never even started one company. Then the algorithm would show me people you may know and suggest people who went to my school, worked at similar companies, had similar backgrounds, except they were all more successful. VPs, directors, founders, authors, speakers, and there I was, senior product manager, same title for 3 years. I'd closed the app feeling worse than before. But here's the sick part. I'd open it again an hour later. It was addictive. This constant loop of comparison and disappointment. One day, I counted. I checked LinkedIn 42 times. 42 times in one day. That's almost once every waking hour. Each time I told myself I was networking or staying informed, but I wasn't. I was feeding my comparison addiction. The comparison trap didn't just make me feel bad. It changed how I saw myself. I started defining my worth by others' achievements. If someone my age was more successful, I was a failure. If someone younger was ahead of me, I'd wasted my potential. If someone from my school did better, I'd made all the wrong choices. My entire self-worth became relative. And since there's always someone doing better, I always felt inadequate. I remember the breaking point clearly. It was a random Tuesday. I was having an okay day. Not great, not terrible, just okay. Then I checked LinkedIn during lunch, saw a post from Alex. Alex was the guy I beat out for a job 7 years ago. We both interviewed for the same position. I got it. He didn't. I felt good about that for years. At least I'm doing better than Alex. But that day, Alex's post said, "Thrilled to announce I'm joining Microsoft as Vice President of Product Strategy. Can't wait to start this new chapter." Microsoft VP Alex. The guy I'd beaten 7 years ago. The guy whose LinkedIn I checked occasionally to feel better about myself. He'd leapfrogged me complete. I sat there in the office cafeteria, half-eaten sandwich in front of me, pen in hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut, because if Alex could become a VP at Microsoft, what did that say about me? If the guy I beat 7 years ago had surpassed me this much, what had I been doing? That night, I did something I'd never done before. I made a spreadsheet. Yes, a spreadsheet to track my life against others. Column A, names of people I knew. Column B, their current position. Column C, how they compared to me. I'd filled in 20 names, college friends, former co-workers, people from my hometown, random acquaintances. When I finished, the data was clear. 85% were doing better than me. 10% were about the same. 5% were doing worse. I stared at that spreadsheet, felt something break inside me, because I realized the comparison trap wasn't just making me unhappy, it was making me invisible. I'd spent so much time measuring myself against others, I'd forgotten to actually build my own life. I was so busy watching their highlight reels, I'd stopped creating my own highlights. But here's what I didn't understand then. What I didn't see. Every person on my comparison list had their own struggles, their own doubts, their own inner critic. David, the CPO, he'd later tell me he almost had a nervous breakdown from stress. Sarah, at the Fortune-listed company, she'd confide that she felt like an impostor every single day. Michael, with 3 exits, he'd admit he'd sacrificed his health, his relationships, and his happiness. But I didn't see any of that, because people don't post their struggles on LinkedIn. They don't share their midnight anxiety attack. They don't talk about their failed relationship. They don't mention the therapy sessions. They don't show the price they paid for success. I was comparing my behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, and I was losing a game that didn't even exist. Turning point. That Monday morning, I went to work, but this time was different. Now there was awareness. and this awareness would change everything. I went to Jake's office, knocked on the door. "Marcus, come in. Have a seat," he said with a warm smile. "Jake, I wanted to congratulate you," I said, and this time it was sincere. "You deserve the promotion." "Thank you, Marcus. Your support means a lot to me." I paused for a moment. Then an impulse from inside made me ask, "Jake, can I ask you something? And please be honest." "Of course. What's the difference between you and me? I mean, we're both hard-working, both talented, but you rose up. I didn't." "Why?" Jake leaned back, thought about it. Then he said this, "Marcus, you're one of the people I respect most. Your presentations are perfect. Your analyses are flawless. But can I tell you something?" "Tell me." "You overthink. In every meeting, every discussion, there's a war going on in your head. I can see it. You want to say something, but you think about it 10 times first. Me? I speak when I'm 70% sure. Sometimes I make mistakes, but at least I speak." "Is that enough for promotion?" "No," Jake said. "But here's the thing. Leaders aren't looking for people with perfect answers. Leaders are looking for people who act with confidence, who take risks, who say, 'Okay, I'll fix it next time,' when they make mistakes." He paused, then added, "Marcus, what you're missing isn't confidence. What you're missing is permission. Permission to not be perfect. Permission to make mistakes. Permission to be human." After that conversation, I went back to my office and I made a decision. For 7 years, I'd been a prisoner of my mind. Enough. I opened my notebook, wrote on a new page, reprogramming my mind. 90-day plan. This plan wasn't just a list. It was a manifesto, a declaration of independence against my own mind. And let me tell you, those 90 days changed my life. But this change wasn't easy. And if you're on a similar journey, I need to be honest with you. It won't be easy. Because those sabotage mechanisms in your mind have been building for 7 years, 10 years, maybe 20 years. Tearing them down will take time. Reprogramming them will take effort. But here's the beautiful part. It's possible. I did it. And you can too. First steps. The first week of my 90-day plan was terrible. Really. I'm not exaggerating. Terrible. Because I'd been living on autopilot for 7 years. And now I was trying to turn off that autopilot. My mental muscles hurt. Day 1 started like this. Day 1, noticing overthinking. Today, every time you overthink, stop and notice it. I woke up at 7 a.m., got in the shower, and there I spent 15 minutes planning what I'd say in today's meeting. Then I realized, stop, Marcus, this is overthinking. At breakfast with Elisa, 3 different conversations were being simulated in my head at the same time. If she says this, I'll say that, but then if she asks this, I noticed. Stop overthinking again. Driving to the office, I rehearsed what I'd say if I ran into Jake. 20 different scenarios. I noticed. Marcus, that's enough. When I got home that evening, I opened my notebook. Number of overthinking moments. And noticed today 47 times in one day. So every 20 minutes I was mentally paralyzing myself. But here's the interesting part. Just noticing started changing things. Day 3. The 5-second rule. Day 2 was terrible because I was only noticing, not changing. On day 3, I tried a technique.
I'd read about Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. The concept is simple. When a thought comes, you have only 5 seconds to act on it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
In the morning meeting, an idea came to me. Normally I would have thought, this is a good idea, but maybe too radical. Maybe I should analyze it more first. Maybe I need more data. But this time, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Team, I have a suggestion, I said. My hand was shaking, but I was speaking. We should change our current product strategy. Redo customer segmentation. Silence. Then Sarah, the CEO, smiled. Marcus, continue. I'm listening. I talked for 15 minutes. Every second a voice inside said, you're talking nonsense. But I silenced it. When the meeting ended, Sarah came up to me. Marcus, you were different today. More bold. I liked it. That moment I realized. The problem wasn't my ideas. The problem was not having the courage to voice them. Day 7. Silencing the inner critic. The last day of the first week was the hardest, because that day I decided to silence that constantly talking voice in my mind. You know, that voice. You're not good enough. What are you even doing? You're going to fail. Everyone knows you're terrible. The only way to silence this voice was to fight back, actively, word by word. In the morning I faced my reflection in the mirror. The inner voice started. Today is another day of failure, but this time I answered out loud, no. Today I'm going to create amazing things. It felt weird, like I was talking to a crazy person. But I continued. At noon, before my presentation, the inner voice said, this presentation will be terrible. Everyone will judge you. I answered out loud, this presentation will be great, because I did great work. People looked at me strangely. I didn't care. When I got home that evening, I was tired, but it was a different kind of tired. For the first time, I'd actively fought in a mental war, and I'd won something. First 30 days. At the end of the first month, I noticed something. Change wasn't linear. Some days I was amazing, confident, bold, taking action. Some days I was terrible, falling back into old habits, criticizing myself, caught in analysis paralysis, but the overall trend was upward. Day 15. First big test. CEO Sarah offered me a special project. Marcus, I want us to research a new product line. Will you lead it? Old Marcus would have thought, me? But Jake is more suitable. Or Sarah. New Marcus applied the 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, Sarah, I accept. Then I added, and this was the scariest part, and I can complete it in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Old Marcus would have said 6 months, and then it would take 9 months. But this time was different, because I wasn't chasing perfection anymore. I was chasing impact. Day 20. First big mistake. While working on the project, I made a big mistake. I'd used a wrong assumption in the data analysis. This mistake was changing all the results. Old Marcus would have panicked, hidden the mistake, or worked extra weeks to fix it. New Marcus did this. I walked straight to Sarah's office. "Sarah, I made a mistake," I said. She looked at me. "Okay, tell me." "I used a wrong assumption in the data model. It affected the results, but I caught it. I'm fixing it." Sarah smiled. "Marcus, this is normal. What matters is that you found the mistake and you're fixing it. How long will it take?" 3 days. "Okay, go ahead." That moment I realized mistakes weren't deadly. The effort to hide mistakes was deadly. Day 30. First big result. Day 30 was a turning point. That day, I gave my project presentation, not in 6 weeks, in 4 weeks, and the presentation was like this: clear, confident, action-focused. My old presentations were 60 pages of PowerPoint, 1,000 words of explanation, every detail perfect, but boring. This presentation, 15 pages, critical findings, clear recommendations, and most importantly, this is how it should be done: energy. After the presentation, Sarah came up to me. "Marcus, what happened to you? You've been a different person this past month." "I am fighting my mind, Sarah, and I think I'm starting to win." She smiled. "Keep going. I want to see much more of this version of you." That night, driving home, I opened my notebook. What changed after 30 days? Overthinking frequency, 47 per day to 12 per day. Risky decisions I made, 0 per week to 5 per week. Inner critic power, 10 out of 10 to 4 out of 10. Confidence level, 3 out of 10 to 7 out of 10. Action speed, weeks to days. The numbers were good. But what really changed was the feeling inside me. For the first time in 7 years, I felt like I belonged to myself. 60 days, transformation speed. The second month was even more interesting, because now the techniques were becoming automatic. The 5-second rule was no longer a thought. It was a reflex. The inner critic was still there, but now I could control it. Day 35. Big risk. It was a Wednesday morning. We were in a team meeting. CEO Sarah was proposing a new strategy. The team applauded it. Everyone said, "Great idea." But I saw a problem. A big problem. Old Marcus would have stayed silent. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's wrong to contradict the CEO. New Marcus raised his hand. "Sarah, I have a question," I said. "This strategy might work short term, but won't it lead to customer loss long term?" The room stopped. Everyone looked at me. I couldn't read Sarah's expression. "Continue, Marcus." "I'm listening." For 15 minutes, I explained my concerns with data, with logic, with examples, but most importantly, with confidence. When the meeting ended, Sarah said this: "Marcus is right. We need to rethink this strategy." Then she turned to me. "Can we talk privately?" We went to her office. My insides were trembling. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I embarrassed her. "Marcus, sit down," Sarah said. "I want to tell you something." "Sure." 6 weeks ago, you were angry about giving the promotion to Jake. I knew. but I made the right decision because at that moment you were lost. Marcus, you were talented but hiding yourself. You stayed silent in every meeting. You had ideas but didn't share them. She paused. But you've completely changed in the last 6 weeks. You're taking risks. You're speaking up. You're making mistakes. But learning, that's what I want to see in my leaders. Thank you, Sarah. No, Marcus. You thank yourself because you created this change. I just noticed it. That conversation was a turning point for me because I realized for the first time the problem was never my talents. The problem was not having the courage to use them. Day 45. Mental sabotage solution. I went for coffee with Jake. Now there wasn't competition between us. There was friendship. Marcus, I have to congratulate you, he said. You're the most improved person in the company right now. Thanks, Jake. But there's something I want to know. Tell me, do you ever feel like your mind is working against you? Like that constant voice saying you're not enough? Jake thought about it. Of course, everyone feels it, but I approach it differently. How? I see it as a signal. When that voice comes up, I say, okay, this must be an important moment. There must be growth here. Then I act despite that fear. This was a simple but profound concept. Fear wasn't a stop sign. It was a growth sign. Let me tell you something else, Jake said. I fall into the comparison trap too. When I see other people's success on social media, I think, why am I not like them? But then I remember this. What they show is only 1% of their story. I'm living 100% of my story. That conversation relaxed me a lot. 'Cause I realized successful people were fighting the same mental battles. The difference was how they managed this fight. Day 55. Meeting the old Marcus. In every transformation, a moment comes. Your old self and your new self collide. My moment was day 55. There was a big project presentation to investors in Boston. The company's future depended on this presentation. 3 days before the presentation, old Marcus came back. This is too important. You can't make a mistake. If you mess this up, everyone will remember you. Maybe you should perfect the presentation a bit more. Maybe instead of 50 pages, you should make it 80 pages. Maybe, and I was falling into that trap for 3 days. I only slept 4 hours. I revised the presentation 47 times. Every word, every comma, every visual. I was changing everything. Lisa stopped me. Marcus, stop. You're going back to your old self. But this is so important, Lisa. I know. But what did you learn in the last 2 months? Perfection goal or impact goal? That moment I stopped. Lisa was right. I opened my notebook, read what I'd written on the first page. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be brave. I closed my laptop, left the presentation as it was, and slept for 9 hours. Day 58, presentation day. I flew to Boston. The investors were there, 15 people, each one making decisions worth millions of dollars. When I got on stage, my hand was shaking. 2 voices were coming from inside. Old Marcus, we can run. We'll say we're sick. Jake can present. New Marcus. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I said. Today I'm going to show you why our company will be the market leader in the next 5 years. I spoke for 45 minutes. Every moment, old Marcus whispered, "Not good enough." But I silenced him and continued. When the presentation ended, there was silence, a long silence. Then the lead investors started clapping. The others joined. "Marcus," he said, "that was one of the most impressive presentations. Clear, powerful, convincing. We're in." That moment I realized mental sabotage was so powerful, but if I'd allowed it, I never would have experienced this moment. 90 days, the new me. When day 90 came, I was a different person. Physically, I was the same, but mentally, I was completely different. What happened in 90 days? Statistical changes. Overthinking frequency. 47 per day to 3 to 4 per day. Decision-making speed. Weeks to days. Sometimes hours. Risk-taking. 0 per month to 8 to 10 per week. Inner critic effect. 10 out of 10 to 2 out of 10. Confidence. 3 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. But the real change wasn't in the numbers. The real change was in perspective. I no longer thought, "What if I fail?" I thought, "What if I succeed? And even if I fail, what will I learn?" I no longer thought, "Am I good enough?" I thought, "Am I better today than yesterday?" I no longer thought, "Others are better than me." I thought, "Everyone has their own journey. I'm moving forward on my path." Day 90, final test. Sarah called me to her office. "Marcus, I want to talk to you." I went in. Jake was sitting at her desk too. "Marcus," Sarah said, "the company is growing and we're opening a new position, Director of Strategy. This position will report directly to me and shape the company's future direction." She paused. "There are 2 candidates for this position, you and Jake, and I've made a decision." My heartbeat quickened. But this time it was a different excitement. Not fear, curiosity. "Marcus, I want to give this position to you." I was shocked. "But Jake is already a senior director." Jake interrupted. "Marcus, this is the right decision. You've shown more leadership than me in the last 3 months. This is your right," Sarah added. "Marcus, 90 days ago, I couldn't give you the promotion because you were lost. Today, if I don't give you the promotion, I'd be making the wrong decision because you just went through the fastest transformation the company has ever seen." That moment I didn't know what to say, but a voice came from inside. "Thank you, Sarah. And Jake, I'll be worthy of this opportunity." When I left the office, I opened my phone and called Lisa. "Lisa, you won't believe you got the promotion, didn't you?" Lisa said. There was a smile in her voice. "How did you know?" "Because, Marcus, you've been winning every day for 90 days. This was just the official confirmation." Be polite. After the confession, now think about what I've told you. 7 years lost, 7 years living with only 30% of my potential. 7 years being a prisoner of my mind. And then 90 days. Just 90 days. And everything changed. Magic? No. Luck? No. Natural talent? Definitely not. The only difference: awareness and action. I became aware that my mind was sabotaging me, and then I worked systematically to tear down that sabotage. Here's the truth. Your mind is sabotaging you too. Right now, even as you're listening to these words, maybe that inner voice is saying, yes, but Marcus is different. He's more talented. It won't work for me. See that? That's the voice. That's the sabotage voice. Or maybe it's saying, this is interesting, but it's too late for me. I'm 45. I can't change anymore. That voice again. Or maybe it's saying, okay, but let me do a bit more research first. Let me think a bit more. Again, again, again. That voice. Now I'm asking you a question. How many more years will you live under that voice's command? I lived 7 years, and I can honestly tell you, those 7 years are my biggest regret, because 7 years ago, I could have learned everything I know today. 7 years ago, I could have experienced this transformation, but I didn't, because I wasn't ready yet, because I needed to wait a bit more, because mental sabotage was controlling me. Now, in the rest of this audiobook, I'm going to show you exactly what I did, step by step, technique by technique, day by day, but I have to say something. Taking this information won't be enough. You have to take action, and this is where most people lose. They listen. They say, wow, great information. Then they close their notebooks and nothing changes, because knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. Marcus Reed's story isn't a novel. It's a blueprint, a roadmap, a transformation guide. And now, this guide is in your hands. The question is, what will you do? Will you wait 7 more years? Or will you take that first step today? Right now, this moment, first step call. I'm giving you the first practical step now. 24-hour awareness challenge. Today, just today, do this. Notice every moment you overthink. Write it on a paper. Notice every moment you criticize yourself. Write it on a paper. Notice every moment you compare yourself to others. Write it on a paper. Just notice. Don't try to change. Just notice. Because the first step of change is always awareness. The day I noticed, I was overthinking 47 times. Everything started changing. How many times will you do it? Count after 24 hours and see this. How many times a day does your mind sabotage you? Then make a decision. Enough. And in the next chapter, I'll show you exactly how to stop it. But now, right now, this moment, just notice, I'm Marcus Reed. I lived 7 years lost. I found myself in 90 days, and now I'm showing you the way. Are you ready? Narrator note. This is a real transformation journey. Every moment Marcus Reed experienced are moments you can experience too. In the coming chapters, you'll learn the techniques Marcus used in depth and discover how to tear down your own mental sabotage. But remember, knowledge without action is meaningless. We'll give you practical steps at the end of each chapter. Don't skip applying them, because your potential is waiting, and only you can unlock it. Chapter 2 begin. Chapter 2. The Science of Self-Sabotage. Why your brain fights change. Let me tell you something that changed everything for me. Your brain isn't broken. It's actually working exactly as designed. The problem is, it's designed for survival. not for success. 3 months into my transformation, I stumbled upon a book, The Neuroscience of Change by Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and what I read there explained everything I'd been experiencing. Here's the truth. Your brain has one primary job: keep you alive, not happy, not successful, not fulfilled, just alive. And for most of human history, staying alive meant avoiding risks, avoiding rejection, avoiding anything new or uncertain, because new meant dangerous, uncertain meant potential death. So your brain developed systems to keep you safe, to keep you in the know, to resist change. That's why overthinking exists. Your brain is trying to identify every possible threat before you act. That's why the inner critic exists. It's trying to prevent you from doing anything that might lead to social rejection. Because for our ancestors, social rejection meant death. That's why comparison exists. Your brain is constantly assessing your status in the tribe, because low status historically meant fewer resources and lower survival chances. None of this is personal, it's biological. When I understood this, everything shifted. I wasn't weak. I wasn't broken. I was just fighting against millions of years of evolutionary programming. But here's the empowering part. Your brain can change. It's called neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form new neural pathways. Every thought you think repeatedly creates a pathway. Every action you take consistently strengthens that pathway. For 7 years, I'd been strengthening the pathways of self-sabotage, overthinking, self-criticism, comparison. But in those 90 days, I started building new pathways: action, self-compassion, focus on my own journey. And the more I used new pathways, the stronger they became, and the weaker the old pathways became. This wasn't magic, it was neuroscience. Let me break down the 3 mental habits and their neurological basis. The neuroscience of overthinking. Overthinking happens in the prefrontal cortex. That's the front part of your brain, the part responsible for planning, analysis, and decision-making. When you're faced with a decision, your prefrontal cortex activates. It starts running scenarios, weighing options, calculating probabilities. This is useful to a point, but in overthinkers like me, something else happens. The prefrontal cortex gets stuck in a loop. It keeps analyzing the same information over and over without reaching a conclusion. Why? Because the brain is waiting for certainty, complete information, a guarantee of success. But here's the problem. In complex decisions, that certainty never comes. There's always more information you could gather, always another angle to consider. So you stay stuck, analyzing, overthinking, paralyzed. The solution isn't to stop thinking, it's to set a thinking deadline. That's what the 5-second rule did for me. It interrupted the loop, forced a decision, activated different brain region. When you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're bypassing the prefrontal cortex. You're activating the motor cortex, the part that controls physical action. You're literally hijacking your brain, moving from thinking mode to doing mode. the neuroscience of the inner critic. The inner critic lives in multiple brain regions, but primarily it's connected to the amygdala. That's your brain's threat detection system. The amygdala is constantly scanning for danger, physical danger, social danger, ego danger. When you're about to speak up in a meeting, your amygdala activates. Warning, this could lead to embarrassing, rejection, status loss. That's when the inner critic starts talking. Don't say that. They'll think you're stupid. You're not smart enough for this. The inner critic thinks it's protecting you from embarrassment, from failure, from pain, but it's actually preventing you from growth. The solution is to understand that the inner critic is not you. It's a protective mechanism, a very outdated one. When I learned to separate myself from that voice, everything changed. I could hear it, acknowledge it, and choose not to obey it. The neuroscience of comparison. Comparison is deeply wired into our social brain, specifically the anterior cingulate cortex. This region is involved in social pain and social evaluation. Studies show that social rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. That's how powerful our need for social acceptance is. When you see someone more successful on LinkedIn, your brain doesn't just process information, it processes threat. They're winning, which means you're losing. Your status is dropping. You're falling behind. This triggers stress hormones. Cortisol floods your system. Your mood drops. Your motivation decreases. It's not your fault. It's biology. The solution is to retrain your brain's reference point. Instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. This shifts the activation from threat centers to reward centers. Your brain starts recognizing progress, releasing dopamine, creating positive momentum. The trigger pattern response cycle. Once I understood the neuroscience, I needed a practical framework, something I could use in real time. That's when I discovered the trigger pattern response cycle. Every self-sabotaging behavior follows this pattern. Trigger. Something happens in your environment. Pattern. Your brain activates an automatic response. Response. You act on that automatic response. Let me show you how this played out in my life. Overthinking cycle. Trigger. Boss asks me to present a new idea to the team. Pattern. Brain activates. This is dangerous. You need to prepare perfectly. Analyze every angle. Anticipate every question. Respond. I spend 3 weeks over-preparing. Miss the optimal timing. Present a mediocre version of an idea that could have been great if I'd moved faster. Inner critic cycle. Trigger. Colleague compliments my work. Pattern. Inner critic activates. They're just being nice. They don't really mean it. If they knew the truth, they'd see you're a fraud. Response. I deflect the compliment. Minimize my achievement. Feel like an impostor. Comparison cycle. Trigger. See success. Post on LinkedIn. Pattern. Brain activates. They're winning. You're losing. You're falling behind. You're not good enough. Response. Spend 30 minutes scrolling through more success posts. Feel worse. Accomplish nothing. The key insight, the trigger itself, wasn't the problem. My automatic response was, I couldn't control every trigger. Life would always present challenges, comparisons, and opportunities for self-doubt. But I could change my response. That's what the 90 days were really about. Installing new automatic responses. New overthinking response. Trigger. Boss asks me to present. New pattern interrupt. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. New response. I'll present next week. Let me prepare a solid first draft and iterate from there. New inner critic response. Trigger. Colleague compliments my work. New pattern interrupt. Conscious pause. Deep breath. New response. Thank you. I worked hard on that and I'm proud of the result. New comparison response. Trigger. See success post. New pattern interrupt. A journey. My journey. Different paths. New response. Close app. Return to my own work. The magic wasn't in never experiencing the triggers. It was in building new automatic responses. The implementation framework. By day 60 of my transformation, I developed a complete framework. 5 steps that worked every time. Step 1. Recognize the pattern. You can't change what you don't notice. I started carrying a small notebook. Every time I caught myself overthinking, inner criticizing, or comparing, I made a tally mark. At first, this was depressing. 47 tally marks in one day, but it was also enlightening. I was doing these things constantly, without awareness. Awareness was the first step to change. Step 2. Name the pattern. When you notice the pattern, name it out loud or in your head. I'm overthinking right now. My inner critic is talking. I'm comparing myself again. Naming creates distance. It reminds you that the pattern is not you. It's something happening to you. This simple act reduces the pattern's power by about 30%. Step 3. Pause and breathe before reacting to the pattern. Pause. Take 3 deep breaths. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 6 counts. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. It counteracts the stress response. Those 3 breaths create a gap between the trigger and your response. In that gap, you have choice. Step 4. Choose a new response. This is where the change happens. You've noticed the pattern, named it, paused. Now choose differently. If you're overthinking, use the 5-second rule. Make a decision. Any decision. Forward motion beats perfect analysis. If your inner critic is talking, talk back with facts. Actually, Sarah specifically praised this work. That's evidence I'm capable. If you're comparing, redirect to your own progress. What did I accomplish today? What am I proud of? Step 5. Reinforce the new pattern. Every time you choose the new response, celebrate it. This sounds silly, but it's crucial. Your brain learns through reward. When you celebrate, your brain releases dopamine. That dopamine strengthens the new neural pathway. I literally said, "Good job" to myself, out loud. Every time I interrupted a pattern, Lisa thought I was going crazy at first, but it worked. The daily practices that changed everything. 6. Beyond the framework, I developed specific daily practices. These weren't just helpful, they were essential. Morning practice. Set your intention. Every morning before checking my phone, I spent 5 minutes setting my intention for the day, not goals. Intention. Today I will notice when I overthink and choose action. Today I will respond to my inner critic with compassion. Today I will focus on my own journey. This primed my brain, set the tone, created awareness from the start. Midday practice, the check-in. At noon, I'd take a 5-minute break. Ask myself 3 questions. 1. Have I noticed any self-sabotage patterns today? 2. How have I responded to them? 3. What's one thing I'm proud of so far today? This kept me aware, kept me adjusting, kept me focused and progress. Evening practice. The reflection. Before bed, I journal for 10 minutes. What patterns showed up today? How did I handle them? What did I learn? What will I do differently tomorrow? This reflection loop was powerful. It turned every day into a learning opportunity. Weekly practice. The bigger picture. Every Sunday evening, I'd look at the whole week. What were my biggest wins? Where did I still struggle? What patterns am I making progress on? What needs more focus next week? This weekly view kept me from getting discouraged by daily setbacks. I could see the overall trajectory, and it was always upward. Chapter 3. Begin. Chapter 3. The breakthrough moments. When it clicked, around day 70, something shifted, not gradually. Suddenly, I call it a quantum leap moment, when all the small changes suddenly crystallized into a new identity. It happened during a regular team meeting. We were discussing a major strategic decision, the kind that would shape the company's next 2 years. Sarah laid out the options. The team started debating. Everyone had opinions, but most people were hedging, playing it safe. Then something happened. I felt it rising in me, a clarity, a conviction, an absolute knowing of what we should do. Old Marcus would have hesitated. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should wait to see what others think. Maybe, but new Marcus didn't hesitate. I spoke clearly, confidently, decisively. We should go with option 3. Here's why. I laid out my reasoning, not defensively, not apologetically, just clearly. The room went quiet. Then Sarah nodded. Marcus is right. That's the move. But here's what was different. It wasn't just that I spoke up. I'd been doing that for weeks. It was how I felt inside. No anxiety, no second guessing, no inner critic screaming, just calm conviction. That was the moment I knew. I hadn't just changed my behaviors. I'd changed my identity. I wasn't someone trying to be confident. I was confident. I wasn't someone working on overthinking, and I'd largely overcome it. I wasn't someone fighting the inner critic. I'd made peace with it. This is what people don't tell you about transformation. For a long time, it feels like you're pretending. Like you're wearing a costume that doesn't quite fit. You take the right actions, but you don't feel like the right person. Then one day, without warning, the costume becomes your skin. The pretending becomes your reality. The new behaviors become your identity. That's the quantum leap, and once it happens, there's no going back. The relapse. That wasn't. Day 82. I had what looked like a major relapse. Big presentation to the board of directors. Strategy update. for the next fiscal year. The night before, I caught myself spiraling, revising slides, obsessively questioning every word, feeling that old familiar panic. Oh no, I thought, I'm back where I started. But then something interesting happened. I noticed the spiral, named it, paused, and instead of fighting it, I got curious. Okay, why is this happening? What's the trigger? I realized this was the biggest presentation of my career so far. The stakes were legitimately high. Of course, my brain was activating old protective patterns, but here's the difference from before. The pattern lasted 30 minutes, not 3 days. I noticed it, interrupted it, chose differently. By morning, I was calm, prepared, ready. The presentation went brilliantly, but more importantly, I learned something crucial. You don't eliminate old patterns completely. You just make them weaker, shorter, less controlling. A relapse isn't failure. It's just your brain testing if the old patterns still work. And when you respond differently, you prove they don't. The ripple effect. The transformation didn't just affect my work, it rippled into every area of my life. Relationship with Lisa. For years, I'd been mentally absent. Even when I was physically home, I was thinking about work, worrying about the future, comparing myself to others. Lisa had been patient, but I knew it was taking a toll. After the transformation, I became present. When we had dinner, I was actually there, listening, engaging, enjoying. One night, Lisa said something that stuck with me. Marcus, I feel like I got my husband back. You're here again. I hadn't realized how much my mental prison had affected her too. Relationship with myself. For 7 years, I'd been at war with myself. Every day was a battle between who I was and who I thought I should be. After the transformation, I made peace with myself. I wasn't perfect. I still had flaws. I still made mistakes, but I was enough, exactly as I was, while still striving to grow. This self-acceptance was paradoxically what allowed the most growth, because I wasn't growing from a place of inadequacy, I was growing from a place of wholeness. Relationship with work. Work stopped being a validation battleground. It became a place to create value, to collaborate, to contribute. I stopped checking how many hours I worked, stopped comparing my output to others, stopped needing every project to prove my worth. And ironically, this made me more productive, more creative, more valuable. Because when you're not fighting yourself, you have so much more energy for actual work. Relationship with success. My definition of success completely changed. Before, success meant more money, higher title, better than others. External validation. After, success meant daily growth, aligned action, internal peace, positive impact. This shift made success achievable every single day, instead of a distant goalpost that kept moving. Chapter 4 begins. Chapter 4, the framework for anyone making it your own. Now let me be direct with you. My story is my story. Your journey will be different. Different triggers, different patterns, different timeline. But the framework is universal. Here's how to adapt it for yourself. Step 1. Identify your specific patterns. I had three main patterns: overthinking, inner critic, comparison. You might have different ones, or similar ones that show up differently. Common patterns include perfectionism, never starting because it won't be perfect; procrastination, avoiding important tasks with busy work; people pleasing, sacrificing your needs for others' approval; catastrophizing, assuming the worst will happen; all or nothing thinking, if it's not perfect, it's worthless; imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud despite evidence of competence. Spend a week observing yourself, not judging, just noticing. What patterns show up repeatedly? What keeps you stuck? Write them down. Be specific. Step 2. Trace each pattern to its root. Every self-sabotage pattern has a root, a core belief, a protective mechanism. My overthinking came from a belief that I needed to be perfect to be valuable. My inner critic came from a fear of rejection and inadequacy. My comparison came from defining my worth by external measures. What are the roots of your patterns? This requires honest self-reflection, maybe journaling, maybe therapy, maybe deep conversations with trusted friends. You're not looking to blame anyone, including yourself. You're just understanding the origins. Step 3. Create your interrupt. Once you know your patterns, design specific interrupts. For each pattern, create a simple phrase or action that breaks the loop. For overthinking, I used the 5-second rule. For the inner critic, I used fact-checking. Is this thought factually true? For comparison, I used redirection. Their path, my path. Your interrupts should be simple enough to remember, quick enough to use in the moment, powerful enough to actually shift your state. Test different ones. See what works for you. Step 4. Set your timeline. I chose 90 days. That felt right for me. Long enough for real change. Short enough to maintain focus. You might need 60 days, or 120 days, or a full year. The key is to commit to a specific timeline, not someday, not I try, a concrete commitment. For the next X days, I will actively work on changing these patterns. Step 5. Build your support system. I had Lisa. She held me accountable, supported me through setbacks, celebrated my wins. Who's in your corner? You need at least one person who knows about your commitment, who will check in with you, who will call you out when you slip back into old patterns. This doesn't have to be a spouse. It could be a friend, a mentor, a therapist, a coach, just someone who's on your team. Step 6. Design your daily practices. What will you do every single day to reinforce the new patterns? Morning routine, evening reflection, midday check-in. The specifics matter less than the consistency. 5 minutes a day, done consistently, will transform you more than an hour a week, done sporadically. Step 7. Prepare for setbacks. You will have bad days. You will slip back into old patterns. You will question if it's working. This is normal, expected, part of the process. The difference between people who transform and people who don't isn't whether they experience setbacks, it's how they respond to setback. When you slip, don't spiral, don't quit, don't decide it's not working. Just notice. Okay, I slipped today. That's data. What can I learn? What will I do differently tomorrow? Then get back on track. The 90-day challenge. Here's what I want you to do. Not maybe do. Not consider doing. Commit to your own 90-day transformation. Week 1. Awareness. Days 1 through 7. Just observe. Notice your patterns. All of them. Don't try to change anything yet. Just become aware of how your mind sabotages you. Keep a tally. How many times a day do your specific patterns show up? End of week 1. You should have a clear picture of what you're working with. Week 2 through 4. Intro. Days 8 through 28. Focus on interrupting patterns. Every time you notice a pattern, use your interrupt. It will feel awkward, forced, unnatural. Do it anyway. The goal isn't perfection, it's interruption, breaking the automatic loop. By the end of week 4, your interrupts should start feeling more natural. Week 5 through 8, new responses, days 29 through 56. Build new automatic responses. Now you're not just interrupting the old pattern, you're installing a new one. This is where the real work happens. This is where most people quit because it's hard. But this is also where transformation happens. Stay with it. Trust the process. Week 9 through 12. Integration. Days 57 through 84. Let the new patterns become your default. By now, the new responses should feel natural most of the time. You'll still have moments where the old patterns emerge, but they're weaker, shorter, less controlling. Week 13. Reflection and commitment. Days 85 through 90. Look back at where you started. Look at where you are now. The change might feel subtle to you because you've been living it day by day, but I promise you, if you've done the work, the change is dramatic. Then make a decision. Will you continue? Will you maintain these new patterns? Because here's the truth. Transformation isn't a destination, it's a practice. Chapter 5. Begin. Chapter 5. Your turn. The moment of decision. 11. We've come to the end of my story, but this is just the beginning of yours. Right now, you have a choice to make. You can close this audiobook, go back to your life, maybe feel inspired for a day or two, then gradually slip back into your old patterns. Most people will choose this path, not because they're lazy, not because they don't want to change, but because change is uncomfortable, uncertain, scary, or you can choose differently. You can decide that today, right now, this moment is when your transformation begins, not when you're ready, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel confident. No, because here's what I learned. You don't get ready, then start. You start, then get ready. You don't feel confident, then act. You act and feel confident. You don't become a new person, then change your behaviors. You change your behaviors, then become a new person. Action creates identity, not the other way around. The truth about potential. Let me tell you what potential really is. It's not some fixed amount you're born with. It's not the ceiling you hit. Potential is what's possible when you stop sabotaging yourself, when you stop overthinking and start acting, when you stop criticizing yourself and start encouraging yourself. When you stop comparing yourself to others and start competing with yourself, your potential is vast, probably far larger than you imagine. But you'll never know unless you remove the obstacles you've placed in your own path. Those 7 years I lost, they weren't lost to bad luck, to circumstances, to other people. They were lost to me, to my own mental habits, to my own self-sabotage. And if I could get those years back, I would. But I can't. All I can do is make sure I don't lose any more years to those same patterns. And all you can do is make sure you don't lose your next 7 years. The final challenge. Here's my final challenge to you. 90 days. That's all I'm asking. Not a lifetime commitment. Not a permanent identity shift. Just 90 days of focused effort. 90 days of noticing your patterns. 90 days of interrupting them. 90 days of choosing new responses. If after 90 days you don't see significant change, then fine. Go back to your old ways. But I'll bet anything that won't happen, because if you genuinely commit to the process, you will transform, maybe not exactly like I did, but in your own way, into your own best version, the promised 20. I can't promise you success. However you define that, I can't promise you'll get the promotion, start the company, make the millions. But I can promise you this. If you do the work, you will become free from your own mental prison. You will stop being your own worst enemy. You will start being your own best ally. And from that place, anything becomes possible. The success might come, or it might not, but you'll be living fully, trying boldly, growing continuously, and that's worth more than any external achievement. My final words. It's been 3 years since my 90-day transformation. I'm now Chief Strategy Officer. The position Sarah created for me is now the second most important role in the company. But that's not what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of the fact that I wake up every day without that heavy weight of inadequacy. I'm most proud of the fact that I try things without needing certainty. I'm most proud of the fact that I've made peace with myself. The external success followed, but the internal peace came first. And if I had to choose between the two, I'd choose the peace every time. Because what good is success if you're still imprisoned by your own mind? What good is achievement if you can't even acknowledge it? What good is potential if you never unlock it? So here we are, the end of my story, the beginning of yours. You know what you need to do. The only question is, will you do it? Will you commit to 90 days? Will you face your patterns? Will you do the uncomfortable work of change? I hope you will, because on the other side of those 90 days is a version of yourself you can't even imagine right now. A version who acts despite fear. A version who speaks despite doubt. A version who tries despite uncertainty. That version is waiting for you, but only you can bring them to life. My name is Marcus Reed. This was my confession, my transformation, my gift to you. Now go write your own story. Final narrator note. Thank you for listening to this complete journey. If Marcus Reed's story resonated with you, the real work begins now, not tomorrow, not next week. Now, take out your phone, set a calendar reminder for 90 days from today. In the notes, write day 90, review my transformation, then start day 1. Today, your potential is waiting. Go unlock it. The Mental Habits That Destroy Your Potential. Audiobook. Chapter 2. Breaking Free from Overthinking. Chapter 2. Opening. Welcome back. In the last chapter, I told you about my 7-year prison, the mental sabotage that kept me stuck, the 3 patterns that destroyed my potential. Now comes the important part, the solution, because here's what I learned. Awareness alone doesn't change anything. I could have spent another 7 years being aware of my overthinking, but without a system to break it, I'd still be stuck. So in this chapter, I'm going to give you the exact system I used. The techniques that work, the strategies that broke my analysis paralysis. But I need to warn you about something first. This isn't about thinking positive. This isn't about mindset shifts. This is about rewiring your brain's automatic responses. And that takes work. Real work. Are you ready? Let's begin. The science of overthinking. Here's what most people don't understand about overthinking. It's not a personality trait. It's a habit loop. Let me explain. Your brain has 2 systems. System 1 and System 2. Daniel Kahneman won a Nobel Prize for discovering this. System 1 is fast, automatic, effortless. It's what helps you walk, talk, and drive without thinking. System 2 is slow, deliberate, effortful. It's what you use for complex problems, new situations, and important decisions. Here's the problem. Overthinkers keep System 2 running all the time, even for simple decisions. Should I send this email now or in an hour? System 2 activates, analyzes, calculates, worries. Should I speak up in this meeting? System 2 activates, imagines 10 scenarios, predicts outcomes, freezes. Should I take this risk? System 2 goes into overdrive, creates 50 reasons why not, paralyzes you. Normal people use System 2 for 5% of decisions. Overthinkers use it for 95%, and that's exhausting. That's why you feel mentally drained at the end of every day. You've been running a mental marathon for decisions that should be sprints. But here's the good news. This is a habit, and habits can be changed. The overthinking habit loop works like this. Step 1. A trigger. Something happens that requires a decision. Step 2. The routine. You analyze, worry, and imagine every possible outcome. Step 3. The reward. You feel temporarily safe because you've thought it through, even though you haven't actually done anything. This reward is fake, but your brain doesn't know that. So, it keeps repeating the loop. To break overthinking, you need to interrupt this loop and create a new one. The 5-second intermittent. Remember when I told you about the 5-second rule? Let me go deeper. Mel Robbins discovered something powerful. Between having an idea and acting on it, you have exactly 5 seconds. After that, your brain will talk you out of it. 5 seconds. That's all. In those 5 seconds, your brain hasn't activated all its overthinking circuits yet. It's in a neutral state. It's your window of opportunity. Here's how it works. In practice. Scenario 1. The email. Old Marcus would spend 20 minutes writing a simple email, then 10 minutes deciding when to send it, then 5 minutes rereading it. Total time, 35 minutes. New Marcus, 5 seconds. Write the email. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Send. Done. First time I did this, my hand literally shook over the send button. That voice in my head screamed, "Wait, read it one more time. Check for typos. Make sure it sounds professional." But I counted. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Click. Sent. You know what happened? Nothing bad. The world didn't end. My career didn't collapse. The recipient replied normally, and I saved 30 minutes. Scenario 2. The meeting. In a team meeting, Sarah asked for input on a strategy. Old Marcus had thoughts. But System 2 kicked in immediately. Is this idea good enough? What if everyone thinks it's stupid? Maybe I should develop it more first. Maybe I should wait for someone else to speak. And by the time System 2 finished, the moment was gone. Someone else had shared their idea. New Marcus. 5 seconds. Idea appears. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Raise hand. Sarah, I have a thought on this. The first few times, my voice literally shook. My palms sweated, but I spoke anyway. And you know what? Half my ideas were mediocre. But nobody remembered those. They remembered the one brilliant idea, the one that changed our strategy. Scenario 3. The big decision. When Sarah offered me that project, old Marcus would have asked for a few days to think about it. Then I'd spend those days creating pros and cons lists, analyzing every angle, and probably talking myself out of it. New Marcus. 5 seconds. Marcus, will you lead this project? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, I'll do it. That yes terrified me. But it also freed me, because here's what I learned. The 5-second rule isn't about making perfect decisions. It's about making decisions, period. Most decisions are reversible anyway. If you make a wrong choice, you can course correct. But if you never choose, you're definitely stuck. The decision hierarchy. After a month of using the 5-second rule, I realized something. Not all decisions deserve the same mental energy. So I created what I called the decision hierarchy. Level 1. Micro decisions. These are small, reversible, low-impact decisions, like what to eat for lunch, when to send an email, whether to speak up in a meeting. Time limit for Level 1 decisions. 5 seconds to 30 seconds. Maximum. Old Marcus would spend 5 minutes deciding between a sandwich or a salad. New Marcus. 5 seconds. Pick one. Move on. Because here's the truth. The quality of your lunch choice doesn't actually impact your life, but the mental energy you waste on it does. Level 2. Minor decisions. These have slightly more impact, but are still reversible, like which project to work on first, whether to attend a networking event, how to structure a presentation. Time limit, 5 to 15 minutes. That's it. Old Marcus would spend 2 days restructuring a presentation, changing fonts, adjusting colors. New Marcus, 15 minutes. Make it clear. Make it simple. Move on. Level 3. Moderate decisions. These have real consequences, but aren't life-changing, like accepting a new project, giving feedback to a colleague, proposing a new strategy. Time limit, 1 hour to 1 day. Notice, I said 1 day, not 1 week, not 1 month, 1 day. Old Marcus would have spent weeks on these decisions. New Marcus, gather the key information, sleep on it if needed, decide within 24 hours. Level 4. Major decisions. These are big career changes, moving cities, major financial investments, ending or starting significant relationships. Time limit, 1 week maximum. Old Marcus would have spent months on these, paralyzed by fear, analyzing every angle. New Marcus, 1 week of focused thinking, then decide. Because here's what I learned. More thinking doesn't equal better decisions. After a certain point, more thinking just means more anxiety. Level 5. Life-changing decisions. These are rare. Maybe 5 to 10 in your entire life. Things like choosing a life partner, having children, starting a business. Time limit, 1 month maximum. Even for these massive decisions, 1 month is enough, because beyond that, you're not gaining new information. You're just ruminating. The decision hierarchy changed my life because it gave me permission to spend less mental energy on things that don't matter and more energy on things that do. The thought interruption technique. But what about those moments when overthinking has already started, when you're already in the spiral? That's where thought interruption comes in. Here's what I learned. You can't stop a thought by trying not to think it. That's like telling someone, don't think about a pink elephant. Guess what they immediately think about? Instead, you have to interrupt the thought with something else. Technique 1. The pattern break. When you notice overthinking starting, do something physical immediately. Stand up, sit down, clap your hands, snap your fingers, change your physical state. Why? Because thoughts are connected to physical states. When you're sitting hunched over, staring at a screen, overthinking thrives. When you stand up and move, the pattern breaks. I kept a small rubber band on my wrist. Every time I caught myself overthinking, I'd snap it, not hard enough to hurt, just enough to interrupt the pattern. It sounds silly, but it worked. Technique 2. The redirect. Instead of trying to stop the overthinking, redirect it to action. The moment you notice it starting, ask yourself, what's one small action I can take right now? Not the perfect action, not the complete solution, just one small step. Overthinking about sending an email? One small action. Write the first sentence. Overthinking about a project? One small action. Open the file. Overthinking about a difficult conversation? One small action. Schedule it. Action interrupts overthinking because your brain can't do both at the same time. It's either thinking about action or taking action, not both. Technique 3. The externalization. Sometimes overthinking happens because all the thoughts are swirling in your head, mixing together, creating chaos. The solution? Get them out of your head, write them down. all of them. Every worry, every question, every scenario. I'd spend 5 minutes doing a brain dump, writing everything my mind was churning on. No filter, no organization, just dump. And I'd look at the list. And almost always, I'd see that 90% of it was repetitive. The same worry phrased 10 different ways. Seeing it on paper broke the illusion. My overthinking wasn't deep analysis. It was just the same fear on repeat. Technique 4. The time block. Give yourself permission to overthink, but only for a specific amount of time. Set a timer for 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, overthink as much as you want. Analyze every angle. Consider every possibility. But when the timer goes off, you're done. No matter what, you make a decision and move forward. This technique works because it satisfies the part of your brain that thinks it needs to analyze. But it also creates a boundary. I use this for medium-level decisions. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Wrote down all my thoughts. When the timer rang, I made a decision, even if I didn't feel ready. And you know what? The decision quality was the same as when I'd spent 3 days thinking about it. But I saved 2 days and 23 hours. The Overthinking Emergency Kit. After 3 months, I developed what I call my Overthinking Emergency Kit. A set of tools I could use in any situation. Tool 1. The 2-minute rule. If a decision takes less than 2 minutes to execute, do it immediately. No thinking required. Reply to that email. 2 minutes. Do it now. Schedule that meeting. 2 minutes. Do it now. Make that phone call. 2 minutes. Do it now. This rule cleared about 30% of my mental clutter. 'Cause most things we overthink are actually quick actions. Tool 2. The Regret Minimization Framework. Jeff Bezos taught me this. When facing a decision, don't ask what if I fail. Ask which choice will I regret less when I'm 80. When Sarah offered me that Boston presentation, I asked myself this question. When I'm 80, will I regret taking the risk and possibly failing, or will I regret not taking the risk at all? The answer was obvious. I'd regret not trying. This framework cuts through overthinking because it shifts your perspective from immediate fear to long-term regret. Tool 3. The worst case scenario. Overthinkers live in a world of vague anxiety. Something bad might happen, but when you actually define the worst case scenario, it loses power. When I was nervous about the Boston presentation, I asked myself, what's the actual worst case? Worst case. The presentation fails. The investors say no. Sarah is disappointed. Then what? I still have my job. I still have my skills. I learned something valuable. Life continues. When I spelled it out, the worst case wasn't that bad. Definitely not worth 3 sleepless nights of overthinking. Tool 4. The coin flip. Sometimes 2 options are genuinely equal, and your brain tries to analyze them to death, looking for the right answer. The solution? Flip a coin. I'm serious. If you've analyzed for 15 minutes and still can't decide, the options are probably equivalent. Flip a coin. Go with it. Your overthinking brain will hate this. It'll scream that you need more information. Ignore it. Trust the coin. I used this for small decisions. 2 restaurants. For dinner, flip a coin. 2 roads to work. Flip a coin. 2 ways to structure a presentation. Flip a coin. You know what happened? The results were fine, and I saved hours of mental energy. Tool 5. The accountability anchor. Find someone who will call you out on your overthinking. Someone who has permission to say, Marcus, you're doing it again. For me, that was Lisa. Whenever she saw me spiraling, she'd say one word, Marcus. That's it, just my name. And I'd stop, take a breath, use one of my tools. Having an external accountability anchor works because overthinking happens in isolation when someone else points it out. The spell break. Marcus's transformation continued. Let me tell you what happened when I applied all these tools consistent. Week 5. The email incident. I had to send a difficult email to a client. They'd missed a deadline. I needed to address it professionally, but firmly. Old Marcus would have spent 2 hours drafting this email, revising, softening the language, adding disclaimers. New Marcus, 5-second rule, wrote the email in 10 minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, send. My hand still shook on the send button, but I did it. The client responded within an hour. You're absolutely right. Our apologies. We'll have it done by end of day. That's it. No drama, no conflict, just a simple resolution. And I realized I'd wasted years of my life overthinking emails. Emails that took 30 seconds for people to read and forget. Week 8. The project proposal. Sarah asked me to propose a new initiative. Old Marcus would have spent 3 weeks perfecting the proposal, creating 50-page documents, researching every competitor, building elaborate models. New Marcus. Decision hierarchy. This was a level 3 decision. Time limit. 1 day. I spent 4 hours gathering key information, 2 hours building a simple proposal. Then I used the time box technique. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Did one final review. Timer rang. Submitted. Sarah's response. Marcus, this is exactly what I needed. Clear. Actionable. Let's move forward. I'd spent 6 hours total. Old Marcus would have spent 3 weeks. Same result. Week 12. The career conversation. A recruiter reached out with an opportunity. VP position at a startup. Higher salary. More responsibility, but also more risk. Old Marcus would have overthought this for months. Created spreadsheets, comparing options, lost sleep, probably let the opportunity expire while thinking about it. New Marcus, decision hierarchy. Level 4, decision, time limit, 1 week. Day 1, gathered information about the company. Talked to people who worked there. Day 2, had an honest conversation with Lisa about the risk. Day 3, used the regret minimization framework. Which will I regret more? At 80. Day 4, looked at worst case scenario. If it doesn't work out, I can find another job, not life ending. Day 5, made the decision. I turned it down, not because I was afraid, but because I realized I was on the right path at my current company. The difference? Old Marcus would have turned it down out of fear and second-guessed forever. New Marcus turned it down from a place of clarity and moved on. Week 15. The team conflict. 2 of my team members had a conflict. Both came to me to mediate. Old Marcus would have overthought this, analyzed both sides for days, tried to find the perfect solution that made everyone happy. New Marcus. 2-minute rule doesn't apply. Time box technique does. I gave myself 15 minutes to think through the situation, then called both team members into my office. Here's how we're going to resolve this. I made a clear decision. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even the decision I would have made if I'd thought about it for days, but it was decisive. And both team members respected it because they saw leadership, not hesitation. The paradox of speed. Here's something counterintuitive. I discovered moving faster actually led to better decisions, not worse ones. How is that possible? Because fast decisions force you to rely on intuition, and intuition is just pattern recognition from experience. Your subconscious has processed way more information than your conscious mind realizes. When you overthink, you override your intuition with analysis paralysis. You second guess the answer your gut already knows. Malcolm Gladwell wrote about this in Blink. Split-second decisions can be just as good as decisions made after months of analysis. Sometimes better. I tested this for 2 weeks. I tracked every decision I made, fast ones and slow ones. Then I evaluated the outcomes. The results shocked me. My fast decisions had a 78% success rate. My slow overthought decisions, 73%. Slower thinking didn't improve my decision quality. It just increased my anxiety. Now, I'm not saying never think deeply. Some decisions genuinely require careful analysis, but those are rare, maybe 5% of decisions. The other 95%, trust your gut, move fast. The overthinking audit. Let me give you a practical exercise. Something I did that changed everything. For 1 week, track every moment you overthink. Every time you catch yourself in analysis paralysis, write it down. Note 3 things. 1. What triggered it? 2. How long it lasted? 3. What you were afraid of at the end of the week. Look at your list. You'll see pattern. When I did this, I found that 80% of my overthinking fell into 3 categories. Category 1, email and message communication. I was overthinking how people would perceive my words. Category 2, speaking up in meetings. I was overthinking whether my ideas were good enough. Category 3, taking on new challenges. I was overthinking whether I could handle them. Once I saw the patterns, I could create specific interventions. 4 emails, 5-second rule, every single time. For meetings, pre-commitment. I'd tell myself before every meeting, you will share at least 1 thought, no excusing yourself for new challenges. Regret, minimization framework. Always ask, will I regret not trying? This targeted approach worked way better than generic advice like think less, because I was addressing my specific overthinking triggers. Chapter 2, Closing. Let me summarize what we covered in this chapter. Overthinking isn't a personality trait. It's a habit loop that can be broken. The 5-second rule interrupts the habit before it starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Act. The decision hierarchy tells you how much mental energy each decision deserves. Stop spending an hour on 5-second decisions. The thought interruption techniques break the spiral when it's already started. Pattern break. Redirect. Externalize. Time block. The Overthinking Emergency Kit gives you tools for any situation. 2-minute rule. Regret. Minimization. Worst case scenario. Coin flip. Accountability anchor. Moving faster actually improves decision quality because it lets intuition work, and intuition is smarter than you think. These tools worked for me. They can work for you, but remember, reading about them isn't enough. You have to practice them every day until they become automatic. Start with one, just one. The 5-second rule. Use it for one day. Every decision that takes less than 5 seconds of thought, use the rule. Watch what happens. You'll be amazed at how much mental energy you reclaim, how much faster you move, how much more you accomplish. In the next chapter, we're going deeper. We're going after the inner critic, that voice in your head that constantly says, "You're not good enough." That voice almost destroyed me, but I learned how to silence it. Are you ready to silence yours? See you in Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Opening. Welcome to Chapter 3. If overthinking was my enemy, the inner critic was my assassin. That voice. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that whispers in the quiet moments, the one that screams during important moments. You're not good enough. Everyone can see you're a fraud. You don't deserve this success. It's only a matter of time before they figure you out. For 7 years, that voice ran my life. It was louder than my boss's voice, louder than my wife's voice, louder than reality itself. And here's the terrifying part. I thought that voice was me. I thought it was my logical brain protecting me from failure, keeping me humble, keeping me realistic. I was wrong. That voice wasn't protection. It was poison. And in this chapter, I'm going to show you how I neutralized it, the origin of the inner critic. First, you need to understand where this voice comes from. It's not random. It's not genetic. It's learned. Let me take you back to my childhood. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. My dad was an engineer, a perfectionist. Every school project I did, he'd review it, find the flaws, point them out. This is good, Marcus, but it could be better. You got an A-? What happened to the A+? Second place is just the first loser. Son, he wasn't being cruel. He thought he was motivating me, pushing me to excellence. But what really happened? I internalized his voice. It became my voice. By the time I was 15, I didn't need my dad to criticize me anymore. I did it myself, automatically, constantly, every test, every game, every social interaction. My internal dad was there, pointing out flaws, telling me I could have done better. And that voice grew. It got louder, more sophisticated, more cruel. By 38, It wasn't just about performance. It was about my worth as a human being. You're 38 and still not a director. What's wrong with you? Jake is 9 years younger, and he's ahead of you. You're a loser. Lisa deserves better than you. She must regret marrying you. These thoughts weren't occasional. They were constant, a running commentary on my inadequacy. Psychologists call this the inner critic. But that name is too gentle. This isn't criticism, it's character assassination. And if you have this voice too, you need to understand something critical. That voice is not you. It's a learned pattern, and it can be unlearned. The neuroscience of negative self-talk. Here's what's happening in your brain when that inner critic speaks. Your brain has a negativity bias. It's evolutionary. Our ancestors who noticed threats survived. The optimistic ones who ignored threats got eaten by lions. So your brain is wired to focus on problems, dangers, failures. It's trying to keep you safe, but in the modern world, this safety mechanism has gone haywire because there are no more lions. The threats are social, professional, internal, and your brain treats a bad presentation the same way it treated a lion attack, full panic mode. When you experience something negative, your amygdala lights up. That's your brain's alarm system. It sends stress signals throughout your body. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your thoughts spiral. But here's the key. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. When your inner critic says you're going to fail this presentation, your amygdala reacts as if you're already failing. It triggers the same stress response, and then the hippocampus gets involved. That's your memory center. It searches your past for evidence that supports the threat. Remember that presentation in 2015 when you stumbled over your words? Remember when John seemed unimpressed by your idea? Remember when Sarah chose Jake over you? Your hippocampus feeds these memories to your prefrontal cortex. That's your logical brain. And your prefrontal cortex tries to make sense of all this data. Its conclusion: based on this evidence, you're probably right. You're not good enough. This is called confirmation bias. Your brain looks for evidence that supports what you already believe and ignores evidence that contradicts it. So, if you believe you're inadequate, your brain will find proof everywhere, even when that proof doesn't exist. But here's the good news. You can rewire this pattern. It's called neuroplasticity. Your brain can physically change based on your thoughts and behaviors. Every time you challenge the inner critic, you weaken its neural pathway. Every time you practice self-compassion, you strengthen a new pathway. It's not quick. It took me 3 months to see real change. But it's possible. The 3 types of inner critic. Not all inner critics sound the same. I discovered I actually had 3 different versions. The perfectionist. This voice says, it's not good enough. It could be better. One more revision. This was my dominant voice. It kept me stuck in endless improvement loops, always polishing, never finishing. The perfectionist sounds helpful. It masquerades as high standards, but really, it's fear of judgment wearing a productive mask. The comparer. This voice says, Jake is better than you. Sarah is smarter than you. You'll never measure up. This voice kept me focused on everyone else's highlight reel, while ignoring their struggles and ignoring my own progress. The comparer is rooted in insecurity. It tries to protect you from risk by convincing you everyone else is better. The catastrophizer. This voice says, if you fail this presentation, your career is over. Everyone will think you're incompetent. You'll lose everything. This was my voice during high-stakes moments. It turned every challenge into a life or death situation. The catastrophizer is pure fear. It exaggerates consequences to keep you from taking action. Most people have all three, but one is usually dominant. Knowing which one runs your mind helps you choose the right counter-strategy. Technique 1. Name it to tame it. The first technique I learned came from a neuroscientist named Dan Siegel. He calls it name it to tame it. Here's how it works. When you label an emotion or thought, you activate your prefrontal cortex. That's the logical part of your brain, and it actually calms down the amygdala, the panic center. So instead of being consumed by the inner critic, you observe it. Instead of I'm a failure, you think, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. You see the difference? The first one is an identity. The second one is an observation. Let me show you how I used this. Day 20 of my 90-day plan. Big team meeting. Sarah asked for input on a new strategy. Immediately, the inner critic started. Don't say anything. Your idea isn't fully developed. Everyone will think it's stupid. Old Marcus would have believed. That voice stayed silent. New Marcus noticed it. I'm having a thought that my idea isn't good enough. That's the perfectionist talking. Just naming it created distance. It wasn't truth anymore. It was just a thought, a pattern, a habit. So I raised my hand. Sarah, I have a partially formed idea. Mind if I share it? And I shared it. It wasn't perfect. It was 70% baked, but it sparked a good conversation. And Sarah built on it. After the meeting, she said, Marcus, I appreciate you putting that out there. Sometimes the half-formed ideas are the most interesting. That moment taught me something crucial. The inner critic's job is to keep you safe by keeping you silent, but silence guarantees mediocrity. I started using this technique everywhere. Every time the inner critic spoke, I'd label it. That's the comparer. That's the catastrophizer. That's the perfectionist. And then I'd choose whether to listen to it or not. Usually not.